My name is John. This is Soft Flow. It's an hour-long class. And just for your practice this morning, what you'll need as far as props, I've got several things here. A blanket will come in handy for this. So if you have something soft for your hands and knees, that'll be great. So something soft to kneel on. You might, if you don't need these other things, but a bolster is always nice for your Shavasana practice at the end of class, and even a couple of blocks. I usually just like a block to sit on. So the main thing really is just using the blanket for any softness to protect your joints, your knee joints and your wrists and other parts of your body. So find a comfortable seat, and as we get into our practice, I'll start to describe what we will be doing in our practice together. So I like to sit up on my blanket with legs crossed, but do sit in a way that feels best for you. I like to cross my legs if it feels better for you to extend your legs, or even sit up against a wall. If you're near a wall and it feels better for you to sit up against a wall, do that. I just want you to be very comfortable as you practice with me today. So as you settle in, maybe close your eyes or just soften your eyes. You might start with a few deep breaths in and out. Just help settle into the space, arrive here, and prepare for our practice together. As you're breathing, just notice the feeling of your breath as it moves through your body. As you inhale, you might feel the breath rising upward to fill up your lungs. You might even find yourself sitting up a little taller. And as you exhale, you're going to draw your navel inward towards your spine. It's just a light contraction of your abdominal muscles. Just a way to be aware of your center, a way to focus and be even more aware of your presence. So again, as you breathe in, just feel the lifting and lengthening of your spine, your breath rising to fill up your lungs. And your exhale to lightly engage your abdominal muscles. And just continue here in stillness for a few more breaths in and out. Take 3 more breaths. Then we'll start our moving meditation. A very simple movement. Whenever you're ready to move, we'll inhale, extend your arms out and up, just reaching into the air. A nice full stretch, lifting towards the sky. Then exhale, let's extend the arms out and let the arms float back down by your side. Let's do that again. So when you're ready, and inhale, just extend your arms out. So a good effort or stretch, reaching all the way out and up. And exhale, still drawing your navel inward towards your spine. Extend your arms out and let them float back down by your side. Yeah, just go ahead and continue at your own breath pace. Moving and breathing on your own. Just noticing the sensation of the extended arms, reaching high. And the exhale is bring the arms back down by your side. As you move in slow motion, just notice the subtleties in your body, maybe a lengthening through the sides of your body. As you reach into the air, notice how your shoulders feel, maybe your upper back, your neck. Still feel the breath and even listen to the sound of your breath. Breathe in a way so you can not only feel it, but you can hear your breath. Finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more breaths on your own. When you're complete, just bring your arms down by your side and just let them relax, let the shoulders relax here for a moment. Just notice your breath. From here, you're going to bring your hands behind you. Just lean back gently into your hands. And as you're able, just roll the shoulders back a bit. Lift or puff up the chest, and even tip your chin up a little bit. We're just creating a mild back bend. Just continue with that nice deep breathing sensation. So you inhale and feel the chest rising upward, fill up your lungs. You should feel a nice expansion there. And as you exhale, not only draw your navel towards your spine, but as you're able, squeeze your shoulder blades together behind you. This should activate your upper back. You're going to feel more sensation in your body. So again, as you breathe in, you want to feel like you're lifting your sternum towards the sky. Feel the breath expand your lungs, and exhale, squeezing shoulder blades together behind you. So we're doing a nice opening for the front body, this mild back bend, a nice heart opener. Then just take 2 more breaths. And after your second breath, you can lower your chin and walk your hands towards yourself just to rise back up. And go ahead and extend your arms into the air again. A nice reach, big stretch. Exhale, bring your arms down by your side. And when you're complete, once again, let the arms relax. You can even circle the shoulders here if you'd like, just to get that release. We're going to take a forward fold. Let's change our leg posture. If your legs were crossed, you're going to uncross the legs and come to cobbler's pose. So just the soles of your feet together like this. The knees will be bent and just out to the side. What you're welcome to do, if you happen to have them, this isn't necessary. You can, if you have blocks or just some other objects, you can even set them underneath your legs like this. Especially if your legs are a little high, they can actually just rest right there on those props. Again, not necessary, but sometimes nice to have there. And from here, you'll just hold on to your ankles or your shins, wherever it's comfortable for your hands. But you still want to start with a nicely extended spine. You're going to inhale and just to grow very tall, feel very lifted. And as you exhale, you're going to draw your belly in and lead with your heart and chin. Just hinge forward just a little bit. Just a slight hinge in the hips, keeping the spine nice and long. You might start to feel a stretch in the inner thighs. You can stay just like this or continue to go a little bit more. We'll inhale to find a little bit more length, like you're feeling lifted. Exhale, draw belly in, hinge forward a tiny bit more. These are very small, subtle, and short movements. And that's kind of the progression through our soft flow practice, if some of you are familiar with this class. We don't move too quickly. We take our time, and we settle into a pose. We can really feel the full benefit of the posture. And we also don't need to push or force the body wherever we are in our poses like this one. You don't have to push to get the stretch. Even just a mild placement of the body is very beneficial. I like to say, let's work at 60% rather than at 100%. So we're winding it back a little bit. Now you're welcome to go a little further if you'd like. Again, not forcing the body to do much more at all. You can even round your spine just by lowering your chin. And as you do so, again, you might fold a little bit more. This is all up to you. You can choose how deep you go, how much sensation you'd like. But again, not feeling like you're straining to be in the pose. Let's take 3 more breaths. After your third breath, just take a moment to notice how your spine is. If it's rounded, that's fine. To come out of the pose, simply lift your chin, just look forward. That should start the re-extension of your spine. You can even place your hands on your mat and give yourself a little push to help leverage your way back up until you're nice and tall in your seat. And just hold here in stillness for a moment. Just take a breath or two. Let's go to our next posture. This is where we're going to come to our hands and knees. So again, if you would like something soft underneath you or some padding, like a blanket, or even just folding your mat underneath you just to create some padding is also nice for your wrists and knees. So you'll come to a position like this. Just join me here. I'm just moving into cat and cow pose. So it starts with cow, which is an inhale. You'll look up or look forward, creating a slight arch in the back. It's a minor back bend. And we'll exhale to round it all out. So your chin will tuck in towards your chest, round your spine, and reverse it. Inhale, we'll tip the pelvis back, the belly will drop a bit, heart opens, look forward. Exhale, round it all out. Feel the pelvis tuck back underneath you, belly button pulls up towards spine, the rounded back. Continue to breathe and move at your own pace. Again, these don't have to be forced movements. Move at your own breath pace, so you can really take your time with this. And as you're moving, just notice the rotation or that tilting of the pelvis, which is a nice way to kind of loosen up the pelvic region and your low back. The nice rounding of the spine to broaden and open the back, which might be a little tight. As you exhale into cat pose, feel the belly button pull up towards spine, which is a nice engaging belly sensation. Let's take 2 more breaths. When you feel complete, just come to a still tabletop position. Just pause for a moment, notice your breath. Getting ready for our next pose. If you're using some padding, you may want to move that padding off to the side. Come back to hands and knees, and we'll get set up for downward facing dog. From here, you want to step your hands forward just a little bit so your wrists are no longer underneath your shoulders. As you do so, spread your fingers out pretty wide. You'll feel a stretch between each finger. Then push or press your palms into your mat to flatten your palms, just to stretch out your hands. And as you press firmly, also feel the length and strength in your arms. Then curl your toes. We'll inhale into a mini cow pose. Just look up or look forward, a slight arch in the back. Exhale, round the spine into cat pose. Hold for a second there. And then lift your knees off of your mat and then your hips up into the air. And that should guide you into downward facing dog. Now you might need to adjust your feet a little bit. Just take a step, and right there you're in your pose. We're not staying here long this first time. Take a look at the space between your hands. You're going to take a walk, take as many steps as you need up to the hands. You might need to rise up to your fingertips to get your feet up to the top of the mat or near your hands. You'll be in a deep forward fold right here. We're going to come out of that pose. You're going to slide your hands up to your knees or even your thighs, lifting yourself up only halfway. So you form like a table with your torso like this. We're going to hold here with the exhale. So you can start to feel a stretch perhaps in your hamstrings and the lower glutes. Now you want to feel like your tailbone or your hips are moving to the wall behind you, while the very top of your head feels like it's moving forward. You're inhaling to create that length, and your exhale to pull belly button in towards spine to secure your pose or just to feel more supported right where you are. Now go ahead and lean back into your heels, bend your knees and feel your hips drop like you're sitting in a very low chair. Extend your arms out to the side, look forward, drive your heels strongly into the mat to straighten your legs to stand up and reach up into the air. Big stretch here, good. Exhale, bring your palms together and then down to your heart. We've made our way to mountain pose. Pause here for a breath or two. We're just going to go through that short sequence. It's a half salute. So basically we'll fold again and then come back up. Here we go. Inhale, extend your arms into the air. Once again, from that nice length of the sides of your body. Exhale, spread your wings just out to the side. Bend your knees and sit back like you're sitting down into a chair behind you, slowly folding. Let the hands drop. Let your head drop. You'll feel the natural curve of the spine. You don't have to touch your toes for this at all. Maybe your hands are at your shins. Then inhale, slide your hands up to your knees or thighs. Re-extend the spine like you did earlier. Then exhale, we're going to fold again back down.
Now you can pause anywhere. I've paused where my hands are at my shins, so I'm not touching my toes, but I am going to release the head a little bit. You can even let the arms hang here for a moment too. If your shoulders feel a little tight or your upper back, this is a nice opportunity to kind of shake away some of that tension. So roll your shoulders, maybe big circles, even a little shake of your head. Even open your mouth really wide like you're yawning, just to release any tension in your jaw. Whenever you're ready, we're going to go ahead and lean back into the heels again. Bend your knees. Feel like you're sitting down. Look forward. That should start that re-extension of your spine. Spread your wings. Reach out. Push feet into the floor. Standing tall. Straighten the legs. Reach up into the air. Stretch high. Exhale. Hands together. And back down to your heart.
Very good. Again, that's our half salute to the sun. And we'll get ready to move through a full sequence. Just do your best with this. Take your time. Modify as you need to. Here we go. Inhale, extend your arms into the air, reaching high. Exhale, spread your wings, bend your knees as much as you need to. Folding forward. Again, not needing to touch the ground at all. Inhale, rise up halfway, feeling the top of your head lead you forward. This exhale, bend your knees enough to place your hands on your mat so you can start walking your feet back, moving into plank pose. We're going to hold here for strength. Push your hands firmly into the floor for strong arms. You can even lift your hips a little higher if you feel like they're sinking, and pull your belly button up towards your spine to engage. Breathe in for more length through the torso. Exhale, bend your knees a little, send your hips into the air. Here's our return to downward facing dog. Maybe tiptoe forward a little bit or just adjust your feet and hands until you feel comfortable and settled into your downward facing dog. I would suggest if you're holding the pose, bend your knees quite a bit here to help lengthen the spine. You can also pedal the feet here if you'd like, pressing one heel down as the other heel lifts, and just alternate. A little stretch for your calves. Let the knees bend. Feel the stretch in your toes and anywhere else in the body. Let's continue. We'll inhale, extend your right leg up into the air. It doesn't have to lift high, it's just nicely extended. As you exhale, we're breaking this down. Bend your knee. Bring your right knee in underneath you towards your chest. Shift your body weight forward. Your shoulder will end up over your wrists. Set your foot down between your hands. If the foot doesn't make it, because mine did not, set your left knee down onto the floor. Reach back to literally pick up your right foot and step it up a little higher. So we create our lunge. Then re-lift that left knee. Your weight might be shifted forward. So we need to shift the weight back towards that lifted left heel. You can see my hips shift back. This should allow you to take weight off the hands and rise up literally to your fingertips. Extend your spine here. Once you've got that sensation, bring one hand then two up to your thigh. Push into the thigh to help lift till you're at 45 degrees like this. Feel like you're kind of launching yourself, lengthening through the torso, and the back heel acts as an anchor. So let's press down behind you. Now you want to engage the legs, squeeze the inner thighs towards each other so you feel strong in the legs. Now you can take your arms out and then up, reaching into the air until we're in a high lunge position. You're going to reach, keep reaching high, and lunge a little lower. Hold for a second. We're going to hold the leg posture and bring your hands down to your hips, just so you can relax the arms for a moment. Let's pay attention to what's happening here. Our focus today is actually going to be on the hip flexors. So right here, we should be getting a stretch through the left hip flexor. By placing hands on hips, push down. Feel like you're pushing your pelvis down towards the mat, but lift your torso up. You might even create a little bit more sensation in that hip flexor. Hold. A couple more breaths. Then we'll continue. Go ahead and inhale, extend your arms straight back up into the air. Lift yourself up out of that deep stretch. You're going to pivot or turn that left heel to the floor. You'll turn sideways.
and bring your arms down to parallel. We'll be in a warrior two position like this. If you need to, make any adjustments with the feet on your mat. Keep the arms stretched out. Right knee is bent, so lunging forward through this front knee. There you go. So right knee and toes are pointing directly forward. Hold for a moment. Then our side angle pose. Start reaching forward through your right arm to angle the upper half of the body. You're gonna rotate the arm so your right arm comes down. That's it. Left arm up into the air. So right arm is down, left arm is up. So here we have the side angle pose. Your right arm or your right hand doesn't have to touch the floor at all. I'm not even close to the floor. But you want to feel nicely opened through the front body. Take a breath in. You're going to exhale, turn your torso towards the floor, carefully bend. You bring your hands down to the mat. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. So we're in a runner's lunge. Feel the hips lift up. Push palms into the mat. This should take weight off the right foot so you can slide it back into plank pose. Hold for strength. If you need to, you can always bring knees to the floor for a variation and still be very strong in your pose. Take a breath in, and then the exhale, lifting hips into the air, returning to downward facing dog. Again, make some adjustments with the hands and feet. Take a breath or two, and we'll continue with the other side. So you'll inhale to extend left leg up into the air, not concerned about the height, it's just about the energetic left or length. Inhale again, exhale, bend that left knee, bring it in underneath you towards your chest, shifting your body weight forward, your shoulders are over the wrists, stepping the left foot between the hands. Again, I didn't make it, so go ahead and place the right knee to the floor, literally pick up the left foot and just place it up a little higher on your mat. Relift the right knee. Now, if the weight is forward, you're going to shift the weight back by pulling the hips back. This should lighten the load off the fingers. And then rise to fingertips. This lifts you a little bit so you can extend your spine. Still going, we're bringing the hands up to the thigh. Push into the thigh to help you lift to this place here, our 45-degree angle. Lengthening through the torso. Use that right heel as an anchor, so feel the heel kind of push back. You feel your calf muscle engage. Squeeze your inner thighs towards each other so they feel strong and stabilized. Pull belly button in with an exhale. Swing your arms out and then up into the air into our high lunge. Again, we're going to reach up high and sink a little lower. Hold here for a second and go ahead and bring your hands down to your hips. So again, now let's pay attention to that right hip flexor, the leg that's behind us. Alrighty, so that there isn't any pinching in the low back, you can do a couple things. First, we can do what we did earlier, where you use your hands, push your pelvis down to lift the torso up. Hopefully that made some space in your low back. If that wasn't enough, just hinge forward a little bit, like so. That should take some pressure off that low back. Keep breathing so it allows that right hip flexor to get some good length. When you're ready, inhale, re-extend your arms up into the air. We're going to exhale, pivot right heel to the floor, turn sideways, dropping your arms to parallel, reaching across the room. You'll be in warrior two. Make your adjustments, reaching outward. Nice deep lunge in the front leg, that left knee. Make sure your knee is pointing directly forward. Now let's follow the left arm forward, angled upper body. Let's rotate the arms here until we're in side angle pose. Reaching up and reaching down. Good extension. This is good energy in the body. And of course, you don't have to go down too low, meaning your left hand in this case does not have to touch the ground. Nice side body stretch. And an opening through the front body. Let's breathe in. And the exhale to turn the torso, carefully bend. And bring the palms back down to the mat. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. Press into the floor with the hands. Lift your hips. Feel the weight shift so you can slide that left foot back into plank pose. And we'll pause again here. Couple breaths. Then we'll bring knees to the floor. Once again, the hands and knees for a moment, and then as you're able, sitting back into hero pose. Just like that, just briefly, because we're actually going to come back up. We're going to come onto our knees. So here's where you might want to bring that blanket back in, or just some kind of padding. So you're going to bring it here and actually just situate yourself so that you're actually kneeling on the blanket, or if you're using some padding. Okay? Whenever you're ready, you're just going to come back up here, so we're on the knees. And just a slight movement of the hips forward, okay? You just want to be too relaxed. You're just going to activate the pelvis and just feel it push forward, and you'll feel this kind of run down through the upper thighs. We're going to go into another lunge here. I need to scoot back a little bit. All right, go ahead and place your hands on your hips. Carefully lean to left side. You can always use, I call these my walking sticks, or a stilt, some stilts over here. You can lean over to your left side like this, and you're going to step the right foot forward like so. Okay, so just model me here. So we have the right foot forward. So we have a series of right angles. So the right knee is bent at 90 degrees. We have that left leg bent at 90 degrees. What we're eventually going to do is lunge. Don't do this yet. We're going to lunge forward. If we did it from here, you can see how my knee really jets forward. It puts too much pressure on this right knee. You need to make an adjustment before we get into that. First, just kind of lean back a little bit. Follow me here. And then start wiggling your right foot forward way out front. And this really just, you can take it as far as you want. It really depends how deep you go. But if we want it forward, so if we drew a line from the knee straight down, it hits the floor, okay? So you want to have that alignment, okay? Go ahead and place both hands on your thigh. It's just resting there. But we're going to inhale, just get a little taller, lifting through the torso. As you exhale, start to slowly shift your hips forward. That's it. Just a little bit at a time. And we start to get that re-stretch, or that stretch again in that left hip flexor, okay? Now, I know I can go a little further, and I plan to do so. But look, I went and I found that my knee is now stacked over my ankle. I want to go further. So that means I need to move my right foot farther forward, just so I don't put any of that pressure on the right knee. You can do the same thing. So I'm going to inhale to get torso tall, exhaling, sending the hips forward. All right, now find your personal depth of this pose, so you can get the stretch here in the left hip flexor. Then you can stay up nice and high. Now this mimics what we did earlier. Okay, we're in that lunge, okay? And that standing lunge. So if your torso is nice and tall like mine is at the moment, you might feel maybe some pressure in the low back. If you don't want that sensation, just lean forward a little bit to get out of that low back. If you want to go deeper or lower, just bring your hands or fingertips to the floor. You can do that. Maybe both hands on the inside of the foot if you'd like. You can certainly go much deeper, but remember what class we're doing. This is soft flow, so you don't have to go too far or too deep, okay, to get the stretch needed, okay? In a power class, I would probably come all the way down to elbows, all righty? But we don't need to do that today. Remember, we're working at 60%. And even if this is too far, back up a little bit, or ease out of the pose, or ease it up a little bit. So you know you're working at anywhere between 50 and 60%. Take your time here. And because we're working at a lower percentage, it just means we can probably stay here a little longer without aggravating the body parts. And it effectively gets the stretch that we need, perhaps, in this part of the body. And if you find yourself sitting a lot recently, at a desk, on the couch, or driving, that's where we get tight in the hip flexors. So these are great poses to re-stretch that space. All right, let's take 2 more breaths. If you got your hands down to the floor, you might want to start lifting the hips up and slightly back, so we can get up onto the fingertips, maybe bring the hands back up onto the thigh. And then start to lean back, and then we can slide this right foot back to its original place, that 90 degrees, right there. So back to kind of a neutral position. Just hold for a moment.
Carefully lean to your left, either bring the hand to the floor or stacked blocks, so you can bring that right knee back down to the floor, okay? And come back up to neutral, holding, still activating the pelvis so it's moving or pushing forward gently, and we'll get set up for the other side. So same thing, to be leaning carefully to your right, down to the floor or stacked blocks, so you can pick up the left foot and step it forward. And then come back up so you're nice and tall. We start at 90 degrees on both legs. We'll rest the hands on the thigh. Now, if we lunge, of course, we'll get too deep into that knee. So we're going to lean back a little bit. Yeah, so it releases some of the weight off the foot so you can wiggle your toes forward. Take it as far as you'd like. Just as long as you feel like you can draw that straight line from your knee down to the ground. With hands on thigh, we'll inhale to get tall. Exhale to start sending the hips forward a little bit. Go in small increments. Even if you can go pretty deep, take your time with this. Go a little bit, pause, take another inhale, more lift of the torso, and exhale to go a little deeper. Now my knee is now realigned over my ankle. I know I want to go a little further, so I'm going to wiggle my toes out a little bit farther. Remember to use your breath. An inhale gets your torso to lift, making space in the belt line. In the exhale, so you can move into the space you just created. Stay up here if you'd like, or if you want to go a little deeper, maybe folding, even here, just to get out of your low back, or hands to fingertips, or maybe there's blocks right here. Maybe you're doing something like this, with blocks right there to support you. Or bringing both hands to the inside of the left foot, down much lower. Work at that 60% level so that you can hold this posture. At any point though, if it does feel like the body is starting to react rather than respond to the pose, so reaction is things like, oh, your heart rate might go up a little bit, or you get a little shaky, or just something that feels reactive. That's maybe a good signal maybe to start to come out of the pose. You can certainly stay in that position and kind of breathe your way through it. But again, you certainly have the permission to ease out of it if it feels better for you. 3 more breaths. We want the body to respond to this. We want the body to say, oh, I like this. This feels good. I can just nestle right into this and get this nice stretch. Alrighty, starting to come out of the pose. If your hands are on the floor, maybe your hips lift up and back a little bit. Pull yourself back. Rise to fingertips, so you can start to lift your upper body. Let's get the hands back up onto the thigh. You might lean back a little bit or pull back, so we can slide this left foot back just to come back to that neutral place. It's almost like where we began, so we can come back to stillness and breathing. Carefully lean to your right side, so you can bring that left knee back down onto the floor. Come back up to neutral. And if you'd like, maybe take the knees a little wider and then sit back for a moment in child's pose. You can sit back where your hips come back towards your heels, then your arms out front. You choose the depth. And it doesn't even matter if the hips come down close to the heels. They can be way up high like this. You can maybe bring your forearms to the floor. You can do this. So some nice variations of this pose. After our little rest here, we're going to go through another lunging flow like we did earlier. We'll do one more pose together to get into the hip flexors. And these 3 poses that we've kind of featured, we've done 2 so far, they're all similar. They are all similar. They're related to each other. All right, take your time and just come back up to a tabletop position. Hold for a moment. But also, if you're using some padding, this is a good opportunity to maybe move the padding out of the way. We're going to make our way back to downward facing dog. Let's set it up the same. We're going to step the hands forward so the hands are out from underneath the shoulders. Spread out your fingers. Press palms into the mat, strong arms.
curl your toes. Inhale, look forward for a mini cow pose. Exhale into a mini cat pose, rounding the spine, then lift your knees and hips into the air, downward facing dog. Make your adjustments with your feet. Here we go. Inhale, extend your right leg up behind you, nice full extension. Exhale, bend your right knee. Bring the knee in underneath you towards your chest, shifting body weight forward. I'm making my foot all the way up to the hand. Again, do the same thing. If your foot didn't make it, bring the left knee to the floor, pick up right foot and place it there. Let's change this a little bit. Before we rise, turn or pivot that left heel to the mat behind you so your whole foot's on the floor. We're still shifting the weight back into that left foot a little bit. Rise up to fingertips to start the extension of spine. Bring hands up to your thigh. Press to lift up to 45 degrees. This is just like the other pose we did earlier, except we have that back foot completely on the mat. We're going to a warrior one this time. Take the arms out to the side and rise up into the air. Reach. On your exhale, bring your hands to your hips. Same thing, we're still opening up this left hip flexor. Slight change because we've turned the whole leg and now the foot is on the floor behind us. So a little variation of warrior one. We're going to keep it moving. Go ahead and inhale, extend your arms up into the air. Exhale, let's reopen to a warrior two. Being sure your right knee is still pointing forward for nice alignment. Let's reach out over the right leg, angled upper body. Rotate the arms so your right arm comes down towards the right leg and your left arm up into the air for side angle pose. Hold for a few seconds, maybe a nice deep breath in and out. Take a new breath in and our exhale to turn towards the floor. Carefully bend, bring your hands down to the mat. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. Pressure into the hands. Lift your hips so you can easily slide or step that right foot back into down dog. To plank. Then bend knees, hips into the sky. Here's our down dog. Ready for the other side at your own pace. Inhale, fully extend the left leg up. Exhale, bend left knee, bring it in underneath you, shifting your body weight forward. Shoulders over wrists, foot between the hands. Now, I didn't make it that time. So right knee to the floor, picking up the left foot up to the top of the mat. Relifting the knee. We're pivoting right heel to the floor behind us so the foot is solid on the ground. Preparing for warrior one. Rise up to fingertips to help extend spine. Reach out with the arms so you can float your way up. Reaching into the air, that's it. Hold. Bring the hands down to your hips, maybe with an exhale. Let's hold for a moment. Now the more that you feel tall up top and your torso is facing forward, the more stretch and release you might experience in that right hip flexor, okay, in this warrior one variation. Let's go ahead and inhale to re-extend the arms back up into the air. Let's turn open to our warrior two, being sure our left knee is still pointing forward, nice alignment. Follow the left arm forward to angle the upper half of the body. Rotate the arms so your left arm reaches down, right arm up into the air. Here's our side angle pose. Maybe a deep breath in and out. We're breathing in. In the exhale to carefully turn, bring hands to the mat, rise up onto tiptoes behind you. Be sure there's good pressure in the hands, lifting hips so you can slide or step that left foot back. Plank, hold for a couple breaths. A great strength building pose. We're bringing the knees back down to the mat and sitting back briefly in hero as you're able. All righty. So the next pose we're going to do is pigeon pose, okay? And so we started with the standing, just stay where you are. You can even sit more comfortably. If this is uncomfortable for your knees or ankles, just sit on the floor so it's a little bit more comfortable. So we started in this standing lunge, okay? And we got into that nice hip flexor right there. That was our first stretch. Then we changed to this deep lunge. When the knee was on the floor, we get really deep. So that's another version kind of the same posture. All righty, even our variation here with a warrior one, torso lifted, torso facing forward, nice hip flexor stretch, just a little variation. We're getting into the next pose, it's pigeon pose.
And it also is going to get into that hip flexor, as well as this front leg and the inner thigh. So here's our setup. So come back to hands and knees. Use padding if you need to, but come to hands and knees. Now you're just going to slide your right knee up to your right wrist. So it's kind of just right behind it. And then you're going to curl your left set of toes. Curl the toes behind you to lift that left knee off the floor. So it's like this. Toes stay on the ground, just lift the knee. The right foot that's underneath you, you're going to swing it over towards the left side of your mat. So you have an angled right leg. All right, you can bring that left knee back down to the mat. Now we need to get the pressure off the hands, okay, because you have a lot of weight forward perhaps. So you're going to use the left knee and toes and start crawling back. And as you crawl back, your hips shift back and you take the weight off of your hands. This is getting into the pose. Alrighty, now if this is too much for this right knee, okay, the deeper that you go, if this is too much pressure on the right knee, either soften that up a little bit, okay, or do a variation, stay where you are. You can do this cross-legged version instead. This right leg crossed over left thigh. Doesn't get into the hip flexor as in the same fashion, or you can even extend the leg out like this with the leg crossed. The pigeon pose, this variation really gets into that area. Now you might want to bring something out in front of you like blocks or a blanket like this and just start crawling forward like so, just resting on your forearms. You can bring your forehead a little lower. But again, if you need to be a little higher, do come up a little higher. Pay attention to the right knee. If you need to change the angle of that right leg, that might do the trick to take some pressure off that knee. But because of that lengthening sensation of that left leg behind you, again, we're getting into that hip flexor. You just need some length. At the same time, you can make the upper body a little bit more active, even feel like you're trying to crawl forward. That'll help that hip flexor region too. Meanwhile, that bent right knee, that inner thigh, even the outer hip might be getting a bit of a stretch. So pigeon pose really does quite a bit. And this is just one variation of the posture. There's actually many variations of pigeon pose. Let's take 3 more breaths. If you made it down to your elbows, come back up onto your hands. We're still in the posture. Just kind of shift your weight over towards your right hip and just kind of sit over on the right side. So you can bring this left leg around to the front. Let's come back to cobbler's pose. We did this much earlier in our practice. So the soles of the feet touch, knees bent, opening up, holding onto the shins or ankles, and just sit up nice and tall, even hinge forward a little bit. Just a little bit, just to emphasize more of that inner thigh stretch. And this pose really too is related to the pigeon pose. Stay where you are. If you fold it forward, just rise back up until you're nice and tall in your seat. Start to lean back a little bit so you can bring the knees up and together in front of you. Flex your feet so your heels are on the floor. This is a variation of boat. We're not going to be here too long. You might even hook your hands underneath your knees just to help lift up through the spine. That's it. But keep your body at an angle. We just want a lengthened spine here. Take 2 breaths. We're just inhaling to get the lengthening through the torso, and then exhale to engage the belly. Do that one more time. And exhale. Go ahead and sit back up. Lean to either side because you're going to swing the legs back behind you and just return to hands and knees, like so. So we can get set up for pigeon on the other side. When you're ready, just slide that left knee right up to the left wrist. Curl your toes behind you with your right foot. Curl the toes so you can lift the right knee off the mat. You're just making space like you lifted a drawbridge. And your left foot, as that boat, needs to go underneath the bridge. So just swing that left foot towards the right edge of your mat. And just choose the angle that fits for your leg. Set the right knee back down behind you. Use your right knee and toes to shift your body weight back.
So we're sitting, you're almost like you're sitting down. We're shifting the weight back, takes the pressure off of the hands. Choose the depth. You don't have to go down too low at all. Inhale to get some length in the spine, and exhale, crawl forward. Maybe coming down to your elbows. Maybe your forehead comes down. And then once you get here, then just do that quick assessment of how this feels. Just check in with your left knee, your upper body, your low back, your right leg. And to really get into that hip flexor, the right leg, use that right leg and extend it back, and your upper body feels like it's crawling forward. We'll hold here. And again, if you need that variation, you can flip over onto your back and cross left ankle over right thigh for more of a reclining pigeon. It doesn't get into the hip flexor in the same way, but it does get into the left hip and glute. This is another nice opportunity just to focus on your breathing, to settle in, and let the body respond to the pose. Ah, that feels nice. I can just feel that nice lengthening in the right hip flexor region. Just providing the release that it deserves. Let's take 3 more breaths. Take your time. You don't have to move too quickly. Whenever you're ready, maybe coming back up onto the hands, just lifting up a little bit. Again, or shift your weight over to your left hip and kind of sit down on that side. So you can bring that right leg around to the front. Let's return to our cobbler's pose. Adjusting your seat, soles of the feet touch, holding on to your shins or ankles. A nice inhale to lift and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, hinge forward a little bit. Just a couple more breaths here. Continuing to feel that release in the inner thighs. Let's get ready for our closing sequence. We're going to inhale to come back up until we're nice and tall. And then just relax for a moment. We're going to lie down. So you basically want to sit in the center of your mat so you can lie down. And if you need extra padding or support, maybe a blanket for your head if you'd like, have a bolster and blocks nearby if you'd like. But generally, we're just lying down. And once you're down, go ahead and bend your knees so your feet are flat on the floor. Let the body completely relax here for a moment. You're going to move into a supported bridge pose. That means you may need something underneath you, like stacked blocks or your bolster, or even your hands. You're going to inhale just to fill up your lungs. Exhale to engage your belly and just lift your hips up into the air. Now, if you have props, go ahead and slide the props underneath you to sit on. All right, you're just literally sitting. Now, if you don't have props, use your hands. You might need to lift your hips up a little higher. See if you can get your hands underneath you and basically just sit in your hands. Your elbows are just propped up on the mat and just lift yourself up. You can do that as support as well. You may not need to hold as long. And this is another way to get into the hip flexors too, especially if the hips are lifting high enough. We're getting into that front body. So we're just doing a counter pose to sitting. You know, sitting all day, we're sitting too long. We're just opening up that whole front side of the body. You can bring that focus back to the hip flexors since that's what we were focusing on today. Let's just take 2 more breaths. If you're using props to sit on, slide your blocks out of the way and bring your body back down to the mat. Again, just completely relax, let everything settle. Let's just do a leg extension in the air, just to get upside down. So just hug the knees in towards your body and then extend the legs straight up. Now, they don't have to go absolutely straight if the knees need to bend or they just bend naturally. Just keep a knee bent. We're just getting the legs up in the air is all. Hold on to the legs if you need support, or arms down on the floor if you need support. Now your core automatically engages, not very strongly, but just enough because the legs are up in the air, your abs automatically engage. So this is just a nice inverted pose. Takes the place of maybe shoulder stand or other dynamic poses like headstand or handstand. Even feel free to maybe move around. I'm just doing some bicycle pedaling right here. So even just some movement. There you go, taking the legs wide, crossing the legs. Even if you're familiar with eagle pose, you can do eagle legs here. There you go. Wrapping the legs or just taking them wide, or like scissors, just kind of cross each other. Crossing them is nice too, especially if the legs are straight and you cross your legs. We kind of get into the hip IT bands, the outer portion of the thighs here. Okay, that's always nice. You just hold in stillness or just continued movement, maybe for 3 to 5 more breaths. Whenever you feel complete, again, not a rush, pause, bend your knees so you can place your feet back down onto the floor, letting everything relax. Take a moment and just decide how you would like to come to Shavasana. We're going to take a nice long Shavasana practice here. So you can just extend the legs out front and just lie flat on your mat. Or maybe you've got some props that you like to use to kind of set up a little nest for yourself. There you go. So maybe a bolster or even a rolled up blanket underneath your knees. It's always nice. If you need to elevate your upper body, again, maybe a bolster just to kind of sit or lie down at an incline. And not even necessary to stay on your back. If that's uncomfortable in any position, maybe you want to lie on your side instead, just kind of in a little fetal position. So just find that place, settle in, find stillness, and just hold here.
Stay exactly where you are. Just notice your breathing. Come back to your breath. Noticing if your mind wandered. If it did, just notice and take a full breath in and out. Return to stillness, return to this moment. Return to the awareness of your breath. This time taking slow, deep breaths in and out. Experience the sensation of breath as it moves through your body. Fill yourself up. Notice the expansiveness of the breath. The calming, cleansing effect of your breath. Now take 5 slow, deep breaths as a way to prepare your body to move. And after your 5th breath, take your time and just feel your body slowly move, carefully rolling onto either side of your body, just moving into a nurturing pose. Take your time, move in slow motion. And just hold for a moment there. Take another full breath in and out. With the exhale, press to lift yourself up to a seated position. And again, as you're able, moving in slow motion. Just guiding your way back to a comfortable seated posture. And once you've arrived, just let your arms and hands rest in your lap, or you can bring hands to heart center. On your own, take another full breath in and a complete breath out. Holding in stillness, breathing gently for a few more seconds. And as we come to the close of this portion of our journey together, we bow saying, Namaste.